Good afternoon, everybody. This is Melissa Thomas of Florida National News coming to you with the FNN Politics and Power series for your Tuesday, July 7, 2020. Thank you for tuning in. Now, as you saw in the flyer and in the overlay, we will be interviewing Commissioner Regina Hill today. If you notice, she's not quite on with us yet. She's actually somebody who is in the middle of her job, actually. She's in the middle of a virtual career and job fair right now, even as we speak. It is the City of Orlando and Blueprint 2.0 virtual career job fair. So as of right now, that's going on from 10 a.m. to about 5 p.m. She will jump on here briefly to do her interview with us here at the FNN Politics and Power series. Now, in the meantime, as we're waiting for her to join us, just want to give you guys a brief overview of Commissioner Regina Hill, who is, of course, a part of the City of Orlando City Council. Just a little bit of a bio for her. And just a heads up, she's a fellow U.S. Navy sailor. So shout out to Commissioner Hill as a fellow sailor. That is pretty awesome to find out about her. But very briefly, a brief bio. She is Florida born. She was born in Tavares and actually grew up in the Paramore area of Orlando and graduated through the Orange County Public School System. So she served her country, of course, enlisting in the U.S. Navy and served for 25 years as a nurse. So someone who's been a very giving soul, obviously controversial figure given the crime history, but she has come back and was elected to District 5 and has been reelected as well, given her strong ties to the community and her involvement in the community. And actually, she has joined us officially, so I'm going to bring her on right now. All right. Welcome, Commissioner Hill.
Hello, Melissa. How are you doing?
Doing good. Good to see you.
Oh, it's good to be seen and viewed.
Very true. I get it. Obviously, very busy today. You were in the middle of another job fair as well. So kind of talk a little bit about that and how that was going.
Oh, well, it's going well. As you know, I sponsored a virtual job fair for adults, and tomorrow there will be another one for our youth. And I've been laser focused at all times when it comes to jobs and training, right? I'm a firm believer that the best social program is a job, and the greatest equalizer is education. And so during COVID, we know many people have been laid off, furloughed, and what I have noticed, many of us had not even been able to receive unemployment. And so what my hope was to do is to identify those that are here in the Orlando area that are still hiring, during COVID, those essential jobs, we might say. And so I lined up the partners with Career Source and Jobs Florida. And what we're doing today is a virtual job fair. The attendees will have an opportunity to go into a interview room virtually to interview with some of the participants that will be there at the job fair today. So it's started at 10. It'll continue into 5. And then afterwards, we'll still have those jobs posted on a message board. So yeah, getting people back to work in a safe environment so that they can continue to care for their families.
Gotcha. And you touched on it a little bit, but I did want to find out from you, like, how have you been holding up, and as well as your family during the pandemic? How have you guys been handling it?
Well, there's still work to be done during the pandemic, and I have not shut my office down. Now, my aides have been alternating when they come in so we can practice social distancing. But I knew my district, which is District 5, which I call I call it the Tales of Two Cities, because, District 5 encompasses all of the downtown business district and high rises, but then it goes into Paramore, and then the tentacles also spread out to Carver Shores, Metro West, and Pine Hills, Mercy Drive corridor. So I would say at least 65% of my residents are under the average medium income, right, of Central Florida, what we would sometimes consider the working poor. And so they didn't have a fund set aside for rainy days, right? They usually work paycheck to paycheck. And with folks not being able to access CARES funding and many of the other resources that even Orange County made available, because right now we're in a very peculiar space and time where everyone's under income because no one's working, right? Even if you had an executive job making over $100,000+ a year, once your organization shut down, and if they're not, getting unemployment, you're still qualified because you don't have income, regardless if you might have $100,000 saved in the savings account. So there's no set criteria outside of being impacted by COVID, and all of us in some form have been impacted by COVID. So it's been hard for those in the 32805 zip code and 32801 and 32835 and many of the zip codes within the west side of Orlando to actually get any assistance that because of the high volume of need. So I have gone out during COVID to work with our partners to dispense over, I think at this point, it has been about 10 tons of fresh fruits, vegetables, poultry, beef, pork, produce, dairy products, along with some of the other leaders in the community to fill that hunger need, right? At least we know right now there is a moratorium where they don't have to be displaced, but there's nothing like being inside of a house where your kids can't go to school to get those Title I lunches, right? The grab and go is every other day. And then your child going to the refrigerator and the only thing that they see is air. So I wanted to make sure that my constituents' cupboards are filled and refrigerators are filled. And, I think, Melissa, this isn't something that I started doing during COVID. This is something that I've been doing for 7 years is in my food desert areas, is making sure quarterly, if not every other month, that I did these food drops, right? I'm known for food drops. So the second thing after the food drops, and this was prior to all the mask up campaigns, if you recall, I ordered about 5,000 masks, right? Before there was a freeze on masks. Because I'm a nurse and my nursing background, I was forward thinking, saying, this isn't going anywhere soon. I saw what was going on in China. They say the mask stopped it. I said, let me get a hold to sanitizers and masks. And we did that. And because of that forward thinking and Mayor Dyer making sure that the commissioners had a budget to take care of their communities, I was able to go throughout District 5 and do mass giveaways, right? And in some of my most vulnerable areas, it was targeted. So I made sure those that were on the streets of Orlando that did not have a place to call home were masked up. I went to all of my centers and masked those folks up. At that time, no kids was coming to the centers because it was complete shutdown. So I went to the shelters and I masked up all of the residents that were in the shelters that will be confined in a condensed area. And then I went to my seniors that live in the senior high rises there at the Booth Towers. Down in the Mercer Drive corridor, I have some more senior 55 and up living facilities, and made sure they got masks. And then I gave them out, as I have been advocating to get testing on the west side. And finally, Dr. Pino, working with the city and myself, was able to start getting more testing there on the west side of Orlando at our Smith Center, at Northwest Center, at Camping World Stadium there in my district.
Right.
And at all of those, I dispense masks, cloth masks, so that they can be reusable. So I was glad to see that, because as I started going to the corner stores, I started seeing the corner stores selling disposable masks for $2 when it probably cost them 10 cents, right? So I did not want my community to be preyed upon on these life-saving items, right? So we've been doing that. And then, of course, I've been busy doing virtual town halls on economics, right? Because a lot of this is about economics when we talk about COVID. COVID has just, I know it's like apples and oranges, but COVID did what George Floyd did. It exposed racism economically and health disparities. And many of the things, the reason why we're being more impacted and affected more than people of other ethnicities, right? And it all boils back down to poverty and economics and access. So trying to create things so that we can have better health care, access, and information. And also work with the small businesses, Black businesses particularly, that had been shut down in my district, and making sure that I had someone in place and that they knew about, and this was for everyone, about the CARES monies that was coming down the pipeline. This is before CARES monies had actually came, and for them to be able to work with someone and some of the city partners like National Entrepreneur Center, BBIF, African American Chambers, for them to help them with their CARES package to get those $10,000 or $50,000. So I've been doing that, and anybody know me, I like being with the people. So I was going out door to door, giving out this information as well as virtually. And now I'm currently trying to put a health initiative together, because I thought about it. I say, well, okay, we get COVID. What happens next? They just send you home, or you get admitted and you get treated, and God's willing, you recover, but you still have those underlying health issues.
Right.
So, so what are we going to do about that? What we're going to do about these underlying health issues after COVID? Because if we don't get people's immune systems up, if we don't get them healthy, if we don't get them under some type of primary physician so that they can get their medications, the next, because COVID is going to be among us for a while, right? So my hope is to get people healthy so that they will be asymptomatic. And even if they got COVID or come in contact with COVID, they will live through it. And, and then not even thinking about COVID, just in order to have a great community, you have to have a healthy community. So focusing on health and training and jobs is my objective, along with saving folks from the housing that I've already put in place with partners, trying to find some subsidies to where they won't be evicted.
Right. Yeah, actually, you kind of jumped around into a lot of the questions I was going to ask you. So that's actually.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. No, this is good. This is good. So one of the things you touched on there that I did want you to flesh out a little bit more is starting with the Orange County's portion of the CARES funding. Like, have you heard any success stories so far in your community? Like, have anyone in your community?
Definitely on this second round. The first round, not so much. But the second round, this grant program of the second stimulus, I have been going around, and I have personally been giving out the county's information on how to log in and letting them know that that monies is there and how to access it, and giving them some of, and that has been in District 5 and District 6 that I have been covering, going to some of the individual business owners and hand delivering this information. Many had not heard, but those that had heard about it, only a few was denied, and it did not say permanently. It was just a process that they did not cover. But I have heard about some recent awards, and the people are elated. But the majority, for the most part, people on the West Side had not really heard about it. nor knew how to access if they heard someone else talking about it. So I think we have to continue with demographic messaging, right?
Right.
I truly believe that the message over on one side of the county or the city isn't applicable or in layman's term for another demographic, right? So I do believe that even though Orange County is doing a phenomenal job and Mayor Dimmons is doing a phenomenal job with this press conference and getting the information out there, I think we have to just go a little bit more deeper when we start talking about the Black and brown communities, because many of them, I know the city and the county sent out emails about the programs to everybody that was in their database that had gotten licensed there at the city or at the county. But everybody don't access their email, right? You know, many structured businesses do have a receptionist and stuff. But when we start talking about mom and pops businesses, they really aren't tech savvy, or they're trying to, as you say, turn that key. They're usually at the cash register in the kitchen or doing all these other things, but their major focus isn't the clerical aspect of it all, right?
Right.
So I wanted to make sure they got that information. And the other thing that I found, and which the city, I let them know we can help them with, is that many of our minority small businesses and Black-owned businesses that I came in contact with did not have a business license. So they thought that because they had their LLC or their corporation status, that they were a business. They didn't know that they needed to come and get an occupational license from either the county or the city. And so that right there deemed them unqualified because you had to have an occupational license from either the county or the city. So now trying to say, wait, don't give up. That can be remedied. You just need to go get your occupational license, right? So some of those things, some teachable moments, that's been part of the obstacle. The stimulus package that came from Washington, not the CARES, is what most people say they have not been able to get. They've done the applications, and these are astute African-American businesses, right, that send out for the SBA monies and all that. They wasn't able to get, they haven't heard denial or heard anything from the SBA, but the CARES, they have now been able to access.
Got you. And thanks for sharing that update with us, because we go to the press conferences, we ask our questions, but yeah, we definitely wanted to talk to someone with boots on the ground, like hearing from constituents whether or not they were successful in receiving it. So thank you for sharing that with us. In the meantime, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, guys, and we're gonna come back and get a little deeper into it with Commissioner Hill, asking her a little bit about some other projects in the community, including some of the housing stuff, which she did touch on. So stay tuned. We're going to be right back. Okay. Don't go anywhere.
At Duke Energy, we deliver electricity and so much more, like free home energy assessments, rebates for energy-saving improvements, payment options to help you better manage your budget, and even bill credits for helping the community use less energy. So no matter what you're doing, we can help you make better energy choices every day. It's just another way we bring power to your life. How much can you save?
All right, guys, we are back with Orlando Commissioner Regina Hill. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. So before we get into the housing part, there's actually something that's a little more top of mind that I want to get your thoughts on. Sure. Talk about the process that you guys were able to go through to make the street mural, the Black Lives Matter street mural happen.
Well, there were a group of activists and local leaders and faith-based leaders that actually came to the city and wanted to do this Black Lives Matter mural to raise awareness of the plight of Black lives, when it came to economics, when it came to disparities, when it came to police brutality. So it was a gamut of things. It wasn't just about the police. It had nothing to do with defunding the police, abolishing our police communities. It was more so geared towards awareness of some of the inequalities of being Black in America, currently and from the past, and how are the past disparities and inequities and discrimination has impacted Blacks today, and raising awareness on how we need to move forward. So that's how it came to be. It was some local activists, even a few local protesters, and the faith base that brought this to our attention. And with that, my understanding, I didn't personally speak with the mayor or anything like that on the matter, but what I did hear is that he was in full support of it and wanted to do whatever he could to work with those entities to put this in place. So, of course, I led the charge. I thought the Pan-African flag was just the perfect colors. So I asked, could we order those colors? Because I had seen the Black Lives Matter. Of course, we wasn't the first. I had seen that done throughout the country, and usually it was yellow. But I wanted something that represented Black people, right? Not saying those others wasn't phenomenal, and it is just a message, no matter what color it is. But so we did that, and we had kids from the community come out, from Paramore, from other parts of our African American community, which was the Mercy Drive corridor, also over in the Washington Shores area. And so there we had, we had our senator, our mayors, we had our state attorney, we had some Black judges, and just everyday concerned citizens that wanted to raise awareness and say, listen, we need to pay focus and homage to the Black lives that was lost, the Black lives that are in the struggle, the Black lives that have not even yet been born, right? That we need to change the conditions of the people, and we need to do it now. And so we all came together for that, I think, momentous occasion and historic occasion. But what we did was one a little bit further that I'm proud of, that many people don't know about, is that we are working with Valencia in their peace and justice space, and Jasmine Burney on ground zero equality. They're currently putting a Black curriculum together about Black history, the Black Lives Matter murals across, and why George Floyd and many other significant events, Juneteenth, that has occurred and that's happening in the Black community. And it will be a curriculum that is shared with our summer camp participants in the city of Orlando recreation centers. So they will have a curriculum just towards Black history and the mural and Juneteenth. So we wanted to put a little educational component with that. Many of those that were against us during the murals were somewhat offensive about us having the kids out there and saying some pretty offensive things. But the kids was taking part in history, and they said, oh, they just got them painting, not knowing, because they never asked, that we had another component, an educational component to that. And sure, we could have told them about the reason why, but that'd be a one and done. I thought it would be even more conducive to put a curriculum for even the kids that wasn't there, because we don't have any curriculum even in our OCPS system and many of our educational systems when it comes to current the current Black perspective and many of the things unfolding in real time, and many of the historic events and contributions and activists that came before us, right? So I wanted the kids to know the significance of how they had just took part in history, but also learn about themselves.
Gotcha. And kind of give your thoughts on, how you felt, how you responded when you found out the mural did get vandalized.
Well, I was most definitely disappointed. I was somewhat angry, right? And I was angry because not about them painting over the mural. It was because they were painting over the message of unity, right? That mural was not a mural of division. It was to bring awareness to the social and economic and physical injustices happening to Black people. So when that happened, there were some people that were happy, but what about the little kids, the little Black kids that you say matter, right? Mm-hmm. And to go and do this, it's saying, guess what? Those Black people that did that, meaning did that mural, didn't matter. Those little babies and their parents that wanted them to be a part of something historic in the city of Orlando didn't matter. So, and then, I believe in closing the gap. Of course, there's great. Like I told them that day, if it was not for the protesters, that mural would not have happened, right? Mm. So I credit and give homage to the protesters being on the front line. But I believe all of us, because they said coons on there, that we were there as we were coons, right? Nobody fight as hard as I do. So it didn't bother me that they called me a coon, right? What bothered me most is the fact that you have to recognize and respect the fact that we need people in every room, not just on the front line. Because you're on the front line don't mean that somebody's in the back room not trying to make it better because you're on the front line, right? So that's the upsetting part. It's almost like I dare you, politicals or faith-based or other protesters that wasn't on the front line, you aren't worthy of putting this on pavement. It's like, what? What? Because I wasn't at the front line. I'm not Black. Okay. They were upset because some of our officers was out there, but we strategically made sure it was only Black officers. Because guess what? Even though they put on a uniform, don't their lives matter too? Right? Mm-hmm. So some of the angst and anger that was being targeted at us by people like us that's what was hurtful. It wasn't the words. And then as you saw, as we investigated the tape, it was some white kids that did it. And I think they really thought that they were doing the right thing, right? Because of the rhetoric that had been stated the day before about us trying to hijack the movement, So it just bothers me, Melissa, because in order to get policy change, in order to get resources, you're going to have to work with government. I realize that nobody's been in the back seat. I think you said that a few times there, I think when you did your opening, nobody's been, and I'm not proud of it, but nobody's been in the back seat of a police car more than me, right? No one has been put in chokeholds and body slam by officers like me. No one had to accept pleas of things they did not do, but the police wrote on the reports to build up cases, right? Like me. I understand the injustices of not only the police system, but the judicial system. Mm-hmm. I got a felony for my first felony, convicted. No, that don't happen to white girls on their first offense. They usually get pretrial diversion and get to start over. But once you got that felony, now that is the road to destruction. And that's what happens to us. Before we can even get our license now, we get a felony. Before we're at an age at 16 to be able to get our license, we started to get felonies in elementary school and in middle school for a fight, right? And convicted. And that is a mark that you wear the rest of your life, right? So I'm not excusing it. Nobody knows better. But to say that, because I know, and because I should have this angst and bitterness and anger about how I had to go through life and just pull myself up by my bootstrap and still be targeted, even amongst my own people today. They never talk about the $60 million worth of housing that I brought to District 5 in the last 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. They'll say, oh, you know, she's been arrested. She's been a convicted, even though it was in 89 for that felony there. Oh, you know, she's a dope head. You know, she's crackhead. No, I was selling crack. But, you know, whatever kind of stuff you want to make, it's fine with me because it gives me an opportunity to tell my story. So I'm not ashamed of anything of my past. But where I was going with that, if anybody had a axe to saw or grind to saw with government, it should have been me. I went down there to bridge the gap because I knew my people needed me to work with government so that I can get resources to bring back to them, right? So that's where I see the divide, and what's disappointing is how some of our local protesters just anti-anything, anti-Regina Hill, anti-Buddy Dot, anti-this, well, you can't get anything done until you work with government. That's where the pot of money is, right? That's who you say you want to change policy. So you can't change it from the outside yelling at the inside. You got to go inside and sit down and say, look, this is not what I'm dealing with. This is how I operate when I'm there. I operate from the people like that. If it's not good for the people, I'm not supporting it. But I don't do it in a way to where they say, well, we're not going to let Commissioner Hill come to the meeting because we already know she's going to be, because I can get things done without being a rebellious and an agitator. You work on the conscience and the mind of the people and show them where some of the things they're doing are unjust and inhumane, their behaviors change. Now, you can't change the person, but we can demand their behaviors change. And that's what I try to do. So, words and letters don't hurt. I was also somewhat, because I do read all these social media pages, I got a little troll in me, just a little tap.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. And so just to see how in Central Florida, how divided we are when it comes to race relations. So the Black Lives Matter mural has really shown me, the hearts and minds of people, Black and white. And we got a lot of work to do, Melissa, because even I work with anybody. It doesn't matter about their political affiliation. Doesn't matter if they're white, Asian, Hispanic. I work with people for the greater good of my district, right? So I in full transparency, I've worked with some diehard Trump supporters, right? That's who they support. I don't have to support them, but I can work with you if it's going to benefit my community, right? Meaning if there's something we can agree on, right? And we've agreed on, they've helped me when it is back to school items. I mean, $10,000, $15,000 worth of things for my children. They raise all those items and funds and they deliver it there in Paramore, and the children are going back to school with great, supplies and shoes and undergarments, and they put in sweat equity. When it comes to many of the housing units I've built, they're another persuasion, usually Caucasian and Republican, but putting great affordable housing projects together. So I work with people and they work with me. But some of the underlying tones that I've been seeing on their pages was kind of disturbing. This has truly pitted Black against white. Even good Black folks are angry. and good white folks are angry. And I'm trying to figure out, wow, how can we bring upon healing? And that's why I supported the Black Lives Matter mural, is to bring awareness. But it did expose that we still have a very intense racial climate here in Orlando.
Awesome. That was a mouthful. So we do have to take another break. But this go round, guys, we will talk about the housing because Commissioner Hill did bring that back up. And we do want to expound on that given this specific district and how that impacts the people of the district. So guys, stay tuned. We will be right back.
It takes experience to know the difference in property values. For example, this business is not the same as this business. And this house is definitely not the same as this house. And this, well, this is definitely not the same as this. And that's why it's important to have someone who understands true property appraisals to help our community grow, while making sure everyone pays their fair share. Because experience matters. Re-elect Rick Singh for Orange County Property Appraiser.
All right, guys, welcome back. So now, Commissioner Hill, let's get into, the housing development that has happened in District 5 and sort of that back and forth, that concern for the possibility of gentrification or kind of the original residents kind of being edged out of the community. Like, give us your thoughts on that and the status of where everything is in terms of the housing development.
Okay, so Melissa, so as soon as I got into City Hall, I was sworn in, I presented my 100-day plan to Mayor Dyer and his staff, and the housing component was huge for me, especially in Paramore, growing up there in Paramore, not having my own bedroom, nor proper ventilation, a one-bedroom apartment, right? The roof was tin and the walls was blocked. So imagine during the winters, the cold winters, because we didn't have anything but a wall unit for a heater. In the hot summers, I just, in order to get relief, you had to go outside. Imagine that.
Wow.
It had to go outside in order to get relief. And I grew up like that. And I'm very humbled by that now. I mean, when I was growing up, I was very ashamed. I couldn't bring friends home, right? And things of that nature. But so when I was elected, I wanted little girls and boys in Paramore not to have the conditions and have to live in underneath slum landlords like I did. So the city is the largest landowner in Paramore. So I said, it's time for us to develop the land. It's late dormant. I knew the people that was displaced, knew the families. I grew up there. So no one could tell me about how Paramore was gentrified. I was right there. I saw it happen. And most of us, believe it or not, were homeowners back then. I live in an apartment, but many of the neighbors owned their own properties. And so moving forward 40 years, we decided we were going to find funding to do affordable housing. And this was before we were anything. So it really was targeted towards the people in Paramore. And that is something with all of our developments in Paramore. If you ever read our contracts, I'll make sure that's in that contract with that developer. It targets three entities: people that live in Paramore, those that lived in Paramore, bringing them back because I wanted to bring people back, and then convicted felons are those that have had arrests, right? Because that was, I hate to say the norm, but we have a large population of people in Paramore because of their living conditions, because of the economic conditions, made poor choices like myself in order to survive. Not making an excuse about it, but it is called survival, right? And lack of opportunities. So we did put that in there. So we have a second chance program in every city project that's in District 5, to where if you've ever been evicted, if you had, as long as the crime wasn't a violent crime, you will be able to get an apartment there in some of our city sponsored developments. You only get one chance, though. If you get real rested, there's no more opportunities. But at least you get that chance, because what we were finding, people were coming home from prison or jail, and because of those, they could not rent a space. They could not rent an apartment anywhere because of the zero tolerance crime bill that some of the apartments are under. That is a city that the OPD actually helped spearhead it. That was before I got there. I think it's called a crime-free community. That's it. It's called, that's a initiative. But we all want all of our communities to be crime-free, but I did not want them to target a specific demographic, right? So I excluded that in the ones that we're building. And also to circumvent gentrification was the vocational part, right? That I've been doing now. I have close to 100 graduates out of my Blueprint 2.0 training programs with different vocational skill sets. Because what I found was this, when I started building those units, is that the people in Paramore couldn't afford them. It was not that they could not afford the $600 and $700 and $800 rent, right? Because I made sure they were economical. But there was a HUD guideline, not a city guideline, that said that you had to make a certain percentage of the average median income. That one I had not knew about. And once our President Trump was elected, some of the HUD guidelines changed. So the average median income for Central Florida is $50-some thousand. All right, that's the average median income. So we know in Paramore, Mercy Drive, Carver Shores, the average median income is about $15,000. So they didn't qualify. Right. Even though they could pay the rent, they didn't qualify because they did not meet the guidelines of HUD. It's like, this is crap. So other people was able to come to Paramore that was making $20,000, $30,000 and qualify, because it was like 60%. So we break it out. There's a 60% amount of slots, right? You had to make at least 6% of the average median income. Then there's a 40%, which is workforce housing, and then the 30%, which is very low income. Now, all those things were there, but the developer, in order to be able to build the project, they have to have more 60% than 30%, right? In order to close that financial gap. So there were more apartments available for the 60%. And of course they got, we had another amount in all of our units. They're all mixed income. So that was market rate, right? But my 30 and 40%, not so much. And those are really the people I wanted to target to be able to live there. But financial wise, it wasn't happening. So what I said was to myself, okay, I know what I got to do. I can't do anything about the rules in Washington for HUD, but what I can do is give these folks some certificate programs so that I can get them to making $12 and $13 an hour. So that now they're making $17,000 to $20,000 a year, and they qualify for the housing, right? If I can get them up to $12,000 an hour, we're fine. So that's what I did. So I put this vocational program together to where they can go to class from either 4 to 26 weeks, and you can make, upon graduation and placement, Valencia and all the other partners was helping with placement, Career Source was giving them internships, to where, so that's rolling right along. Now, my biggest fear about gentrification is COVID. No one's working. Their rent is still occurring, right?
Right.
Eventually the moratorium is going to be over with, and they got to go, right? So that's how my fear is, that they would gentrify not just Paramore, but every urban community in America. Is the excuse called COVID-19. right? And so what I personally have been doing is working with staff for any city development, residential that we've done, that if they could not get some of the CARES monies from the county, that we also assist them with their rearage, right? If they were current before May 26th, right? And that's when the shutdown happened. Now, yesterday in Paramore, because I was just as concerned of Black businesses having to leave Paramore, right? Because they did not have the ability to pay their rent because, residents aren't patronizing businesses right now. There's, it's slow everywhere. So what we did yesterday is pass for funding for the CRA Paramore, just Paramore, no other place, not downtown, but Paramore only. Even if they get the CARES stimulus, that they can receive $6,000 towards their rearage with rent, right? And no discussion, it's a grant, no payback or anything. So next week we'll be I'll be going door to door in Paramore, handing out information on how they can apply to get this $6,000. But I am still working on a residential piece there, not just in Paramore, but for every city project that we've built over on Mercer Drive, Ability Housing, over at Pandanas, and so forth and so on, so that we don't displace people, that we welcome them in and say, now you finally have a safe, affordable place to stay. But through COVID, I'm sorry, you got to leave. That can't happen. So I'm working on that.
So where can people go? Yeah, where can people go to find out more about that?
So you will go to our City of Orlando .net home, and then you will go to MEBA funding. And MEBA is minority economic and minority businesses, right? You will go to that, and there should be a link there giving you the information on how to apply. And not only that, there's additional application where you can get up to $45,000 for a business in Paramore to get your products, to get equipment, for rent abatement, or to start a business there in the Paramore area. The only there's a few, you have to have a business plan, of course. Taxes have to be current. Have to have an occupational license, have to be in Paramore. And we would ask that you stay in business 3 years, because that they break down the 45,000 into 3 quarters. And the longer you stay, the less you pay. Now, if you move out before 3 years, there is some funds that you have to return back to the city.
Got you. Thank you for sharing that. All right, we're going to take one more quick commercial break, guys. We will be back, and we're going to talk a little bit more with Commissioner Hill as we start to wrap up, because we know you are a very busy lady, but I did want to get into a little more detail when we come back about the youth fair that's coming up tomorrow and your connection with Lieutenant Deborah Clayton. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We will be right back.
My name is Russell Drake. I'm an Orange County resident and a community advocate. On August 18th, I'm voting for Rick Singh. Rick Singh has been an outstanding property appraiser for the last 7 years. Under his leadership, he has returned $1 billion to the county. Under his leadership, property value has gone up, and he is now managing over $206 billion in assets, the most in county history. Under his leadership, there have been a series of awards won by his hard-working staff. He has set the tone for that. Furthermore, he's a man of his word. He's no stranger to the community. From the east to the west, from the north to the south, property appraiser Rick Singh is in the community. He held a series of homestead exemption seminars around the county, catering to your needs. Rick Singh is here for the people. So on August 18th, I encourage you and everyone you know to vote Rick Singh, re-elect him for property appraiser.
Re-elect Rick Singh for Orange County Property Appraiser.
All right, guys, welcome back. We're with Orlando Commissioner District 5, Regina Hill. So yeah, talk about the youth crime prevention job fair that's coming up tomorrow, and get into that connection that you had with Lieutenant Deborah Clayton.
Absolutely. As you know, we lost Lieutenant Deborah Clayton about 3 years ago. But about 4 years ago, Lieutenant Clayton started working with me in the community, and something now that is popular, but when we started, it wasn't. It's called 21st Century Policing, and bridging that gap between law enforcement and the community. I would like to say Lieutenant Deborah Clayton was probably trying to prevent a day such as where we're in now, moment where we're at with the George Floyd. She was trying to bring law enforcement to understand that the community were human and how to treat them. And then she was trying to bring the community closer to law enforcement to let them know that, they're people too, and They just happen to wear another type of uniform, right? And bringing us closer. And she was doing a phenomenal job with that. So we had been doing some Stop the Violence walk, some awareness, and bringing in her team there in her sector, and Chief John Mina and Deputy Chief Eric Smith, and we were, I believe we were bridging that gap, right? The community had started to become more trusting of law enforcement through her leadership. And so the summer was approaching, and we had that summer about 4 years ago, it was a major peak in murders and crime, where it wasn't like crime against, break-ins and robberies. It was a lot of murders going on that summer. And so what Lieutenant Deborah Clayton wanted to do, she said, Commissioner, we need to get kids off the street. If they're somewhere working, they won't have time to get in trouble. Right. And I was like, you know what, Deborah, you're right. I said, go ahead. That's your idea. Go ahead and put it together. And she did. And she started reaching out to Career Source, Jones High School, and a whole lot of different partners in the community for this job fair. And we held it there at Jones High School, and we did something about crime prevention, and the OPD led it under her leadership. So we had a little workshop prior to the actual job fair. So we had an hour workshop with the kids, and they ranged from the ages of 15 to 21. And after they did the workshop, they went over into the gymnasium, where we had probably about 40 vendors, employment vendors. And we had about 600 kids. It was like, ooh, 600 kids came out to get jobs. And of course, we wasn't able to hire all 600 kids. So we were able to hire about 300 plus of those. And then SeaWorld. 100%. Yeah. And so what we were able to do, because SeaWorld and Universal and Disney World were having their own job fairs, we were able to refer them over the others that didn't get it to those amusement parks, so that they can become employed. And so what Deborah did with that also was we was not finished with them after we placed them on the job. Deborah put a team together that followed the kids. Hey, you got to work you got to work today. How you doing? How things going on the job? Oh, Miss Deborah, such and such, my boss, and she'll talk them through it. And now this is the popular work. Now she would de-escalate them, right, to where they knew how to properly behave on the job, and if they came against a crisis, how to behave and how to make a complaint. So she was working on a whole lot of things within that initiative. And so when Deborah lost her life, Deborah was more than a liaison to me. She was, I still get choked up thinking about it. Matter of fact, we got a birthday coming up. Her birthday is August 14th and mine's the 15th. Wow. Yeah. And so, yeah, after she died, I did not want her work and things that she really wanted to make a difference with go in vain. So long as I'm in office, we will always have the Lieutenant Deborah Clayton job fair because it does give the kids a sense of value. It teaches them leadership skills, and it also put some money in their pockets so they don't have to, make poor choices. So yeah, so that's why we do that. It's just it still hurt me so bad. She died, then my daughter died a little bit there after that. So it's tough when I think about Deborah and all the potential possibilities that she had and her love for this community.
Wow. And I mean, thanks for opening up about that. Kind of talk about how you channel that in terms of the community work that you now do, because you've been involved in the community anyway. Long before Lieutenant Deborah Clayton lost her life, you were constantly in the community doing events and things like that. But how do you?
Much is given, much is required, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I was a nurse prior to this for 25 years, so I had found my calling, and I was. I had my feet was on solid ground, and nobody knew about my past. I was on boards, and they didn't know, right? People that was close to me knew, and my pastor and all that know, but not people like yourself, because I always worked from the back, right? I was volunteered at the Urban League. I was volunteering at that time with Commissioner Tiffany Russell Moore. There at Orange County on one of their public safety boards, right? And so service is just in my DNA. But I had, because of my past and because I didn't come from a family with a popular pedigree name, because I'm comfortable in my own skin. I had blonde nappy hair, right? I didn't come with pearls on or those type of things. So automatically I got, crucified in media. I got crucified in the community. But I wouldn't be deterred. That I really knew I could do this job and wanted to go make a difference, right? And had some plans. So I weathered through it all. And the people decided, you know what? I'm going to give her, sound like she's passionate about this, sound like she really want to make a difference in our community. So every day, Melissa, when I get up, and I very seldom sleep at night, to be honest, because I'm always thinking, what can I do next? Because I take this job so seriously. And then the other thing is I was a night nurse for 25 years. So my sleep patterns still haven't adjusted. So I got an edge on everybody else because I'm not accustomed to sleeping. So I'm up all night every day. And so I really take it serious that they decided against all odds to send me, right? I've been, even in the second round, I had some pretty stable and well-known opponents, right? I mean, who could ever run against a Miss America? I'm not I wasn't born with those kind of looks and talent that they have. So I was like, wow, this in itself is historic, right? For somebody like me to even much, and then someone that our grandmother is a pioneer in politics that helped create Black politics in Central Florida, and so those type of things and the people say, no, we still want her. All right. Because we remember that in the midst of my grief, that awful video that came out and people highlighted all over social media that went viral and even responsible media, they put it all over the airwaves, and it was done maliciously so I couldn't win re-election. And what happened was people had a rebound effect. People started to want to know how I was doing. Not Commissioner Hill, but how Regina Hill is doing. You worked so hard. You're going through all these tragedies. How are you doing? All right. And so then I started seeing that people care. And then that empowered me to go and get some help, right? Mental health is real. I don't care. So I was dealing with all my angst and pain and frustration by work. But I'll come home and cry. Right? And not deal with that and get back up like nothing happened. All right? Buried my daughter on Saturday. Monday morning, I was at City Hall, ready to work, signing up for, and having stopped, right? Deborah get killed. I'm near the hospital seeing her die. Next day, I'm at work. Never been able to process any of this stuff. So the work helped me process it. The work helps me feel, and this might be the selfish, needed. I'm the type of person that need to feel needed, right? I know that kind of, you all got our little things. So I like to be needed. There was a time I liked to be liked. I don't care about that. I like to be needed and feel like I'm making a difference. So that's what motivates me is the people, knowing that I'm making a difference and I'm trying to do the best I can while I can. I don't see this platform here as me being in this game 20 years. That's not a desire of mine. Mm-hmm. I want to be in a space where I'm helping people, right, for 20 more years. But I don't know if I want to truly be in politics 20 more years. So I work with the urgency of now. And I don't know if people will elect me. You know, in this job, they got to send you back, right? And that's no guarantees. I'm not appointed. I work for the people, and they're the ones who tell me every 4 years if I got a job or not. So I try to work every day because I don't know if I'm coming back, right? I don't take that lightly. I try to work every day to show them I'm glad you hired me, all right? I try to work every day into the people and bring something back. Say, see, I told you I brought you something back. I got some receipts, right? I got some receipts. Look at that house, you know. And then the other piece is my grandson and grandchildren one day are going to be here. And I'll hopefully be going to Zion. And they can ride by and say, my Nana did. My Nana helped those people. I don't care what the other story said about her. But this is what my Nana did. Yeah, she was arrested 21 times, but look what she did 1,000 more times for the people, right? Because I didn't hurt nobody but myself. I had no crimes against others. So yeah, just trying to create a legacy for my grandchildren to be proud of. I'm sorry, it's just a whole lot. I know I'm like having a little mini meltdown, but when you think about the lives being lost, when you think about right here in Orange County, girl, people not putting on their masks, and you work so hard for them, it just bothers you just to see the climate that we're in right now. And we're gonna have to do this together to change it. When you look on social media and all the hate, you know, even from people that you know, and all of the division, it's like you kind of think, you know what, I don't want to do this forever. I want to go do something where it's not as controversial and everything that you do, you're not hated for. You know, I know you get thick skin. I got thick skin. After I wipe these tears, I'll be on another Zoom meeting trying to make a difference. Right. Melissa. But I try to be authentic. And so, you know, this is Regina Hill. I'm not a crybaby, but it's some shit to cry about right now. It's a lot going on in the world. It's a lot. And so if we don't shed tears for what's going on, I think we're just as callous and heartless. If you don't feel something in this climate, something's wrong with you. It doesn't matter what your title is. If you can't shed a tear what's going on in America right now, and the divide, and people talking about picking up arms and weapons and race wars and and hate and division among your friends. You got white friends that can't even talk to you now because they think that just because you black, you feel a certain way. Or black friends not picking up the phone, talking to their white good friends. And because, I can't talk to them no more because, they ain't down with Black lives. And it's just a lot to take in right now, and friendships, true friendships being lost and the division, and I'm talking about here. I can't do nothing about what's going on in Washington.
Right.
But I'm saying we got to do something here because it is getting chaotic. Like you said, even just going to vandalize that mural, that right there is brazen. In the midst of cameras all downtown. And then to see there were little white kids, is that done to try to make the narrative about this is what the Black Lives Matter movement is about? No. I thought, and I have to constantly explain that these efforts aren't racist efforts. I don't know about the organization, but we're talking about the people, like the lives, not the organization. And trying to separate your stance on both has been a lot. Yeah. So, but I'm a hopeful person. The only thing we can do is continue the work. And as you stated, I'm a workaholic. I love what I do. I'll do it for free, right? And I almost do when I know a lot of people talk about, that we get a check. But like you said, when you work, and you work a lot too, I see you everywhere and doing everything and reporting our stories, right? And which is needed. People need to see these stories and the things that you do, reporting from another perspective. And matter of fact, even before anybody ever interviewed me, you did over at you remember that over at the talk radio station.
Yep, that was a while ago.
Yeah, that was like 8 years ago before I was even elected.
Yes, a while ago.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm hopeful. There's a lot of great things that's going to happen to create that bridge over troubled waters. There's going to have to be a lot of policy change. There's going to have to be some resources that come forth for the people, especially for poor people, right?
Right.
Because it don't matter if you black, white, yellow, or brown. Poor is poor.
Right.
And the poor will always be among us. So elevating them so that they can have sustainable and quality lives is one of my main objectives. And my focus is on, of course, I'm Black, so I would be remiss to say that I don't focus on Black causes and the Black agenda, but I focus on all people also, because I am not the Black commissioner of District 5. I am the commissioner of District 5. And so I try to serve my downtown wealthy residents and business owners and give them 110%, just like I do the people in Paramore or over in Carver Shores, right? And I think for me, Melissa, that's what makes it so difficult. When I say difficult, meaning so time consuming, the reason you see me always working, because I have to serve two cities, the haves and the have-nots. And I have to serve them all equitably, right? I can't do more for another than I do for those voters and business owners there in the downtown corridor. They should not be penalized by my service because they're wealthy. They shouldn't be penalized because they have resources, right? I got to give them the same, they just have different needs, but that does not mean that their needs are lesser than, because one person might need foods and lights and the other person might have food and lights, but they got a problem with noise. Mm-hmm. That noise is just as important to me, and making sure I address their noise level downtown so that they can have a restful sleep at night as addressing that homeless individual that don't have a roof over their head or a plate of food. So I try to focus on all of it. So it requires a lot of you to try to take care of it all. That's the unique thing about District 5 that I don't think people realize. You know, when they talk about District 5, they don't realize how vast and large it is. And you got to cover all that. I got to be at the HOA meetings. I got to be at the neighborhood watches. I have to be at their events. I do. I need to be there because I never wanted to be that legislator that came around every 4 years. They they're going to see me. They're not going to see me when it's time for election.
Right.
So in order for that to happen, I just got to be everywhere at all times, and you know, and bring Poppy with me.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Commissioner Hill, for taking some of your time to be on our show. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for tuning in. And, you know, we'll be glad to have you back on the show when things are a little less hectic for you.
Yeah,
I know you're in the middle of this.
I know, but it never will be less hectic for me. As long as I'm in the seat, I'm going to work.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I do. It's just I get up to go to work.
Right. So yeah, we'll be glad to have you back on for sure. But ladies and gentlemen, that does it for Orlando Commissioner Regina Hill. Thank you so much for being on. Always a pleasure.
And can I say something to the general public?
Yep, go ahead.
We are in this together. We really are. And I do believe that we are Orlando proud. And one thing about tragedies and different things that ever happen in the city of Orlando, and that's the rewarding thing, is how you do see people coming together. Right, of all ethnicities and all hues, all genders and or sexual orientations for the greater good. So I didn't want to not pay homage to that. How this city has united behind the George Floyd incident, how they have united around COVID. So there's a lot of great things going on. And I do know that we have two mayors that work together. And so I know the resources that's needed to continue to build this city and this county. It's happening. You know, our best is yet to come. But we must mask up. We must continue to practice social distancing and frequent hand washing and stand in as much as possible. Because COVID is real here in the city, in the county, and it's killing. I know 3 people that's died last week, right?
Wow.
And multiples, and these were people right within our community. So let's live through this so that we can see a better day together.
All right. On that note, thank you so much. Appreciate you being on the show. Yep, no problem. Have a great rest of your day and, you know, continue to serve the community. We look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep. All right, guys. So that does it for us here at the FNN Politics and Power series for your Tuesday. I will be back with the next episode of FNN Politics and Power on Thursday. And of course, I'll be back this afternoon at 5 p.m. with your evening news rundown with all of the latest headlines and top stories for you guys. However, if you haven't done so yet, be sure to like us on Facebook. You can find us at Florida National News, at FNN News TV, and FNN News Live. Be sure to follow us on Instagram. We're over there too. You can find us at Florida National News. And be sure to subscribe and click the little bell over on YouTube. You'll find us there at Florida National News. We like to be easy to find, guys. So be sure to go ahead and like, subscribe, follow, do all of that fun stuff. So in the meantime, you guys have a great rest of your afternoon until I see you again at 5 p.m. But you take care and have a great rest of your day.